The river that never sleeps. It started the night my uncle disappeared. We had gone to the village for a funeral. My father's younger brother, Uncle Chike, was the kind of man who loved stories and never believed in the old warnings. He was loud and curious, always ready to prove people wrong. That night, he decided to prove something about the river, Odo Ezi, the river that never sleeps. Everyone in the village knew the stories. The river was alive, they said. It watched, it waited. It didn't like to be disturbed, especially at night. Some claimed they had seen glowing eyes in the river. Others swore they had heard voices calling their names, even when no one was there. Children were forbidden to go near it after sundown, and even adults only crossed the narrow wooden bridge if they absolutely had to. Uncle Chike didn't care. He laughed at the tales. Na only river no dey chop person, he had said earlier that evening, slapping his chest and drinking palm wine. He was drunk, but not too drunk to walk. When he stood up and announced that he would go to the river to fetch water, the whole family froze. Chike, stop that nonsense, my father shouted. You know what they say about the river at night. Uncle Chike laughed. It's just a river. What will it do? Swallow me? Abeg, I'm going. Nobody followed him. I wanted to, but my mother grabbed my arm and whispered, Stay here, don't follow him. He left with a plastic bucket, still laughing, his voice fading into the night. We all stayed silent, waiting. The air felt heavy. It was too quiet. Even the crickets stopped chirping. Then we heard it. A loud splash, followed by what sounded like a scream. My father jumped to his feet. Chike, he called. There was no answer. Stay here, he told us. Grabbing a flashlight, he and a few other men rushed out into the darkness toward the river. I couldn't sit still. My heart was beating too fast. Something didn't feel right. I slipped out of the house and followed them, keeping my distance so they wouldn't see me. The path to the river was dark and narrow, lined with tall bushes that seemed to reach for you as you passed. When I got close, I stopped and hid behind a tree. The men were standing by the river bank, shining their flashlights on the water. Chike, my father called again. Nothing. Just the sound of the water, moving too fast for a river that was usually calm. Then, one of the men shouted, Look! I leaned forward to see. At first, I thought it was a trick of the lights, but it wasn't. Two glowing eyes stared at us from the middle of the river. They weren't human, they weren't fish. They were too big, too bright, and too alive. The men froze. No one moved. The eyes blinked once, and then they disappeared under the water. Let's go, someone whispered, his voice shaking. But my father didn't leave. Chike, he called again, his voice breaking. The water rippled. Something floated into the surface. It was the bucket, just the bucket. The men grabbed my father and dragged him away, shouting at him to leave the river alone. I ran back to the house before they could see me. My heart was pounding so hard I thought it would burst. That night, we didn't sleep. Nobody in the village did. The elders came to our house and told my father to forget about Chike. The river has taken him, they said. You can't fight the river. But how could we forget? How could we pretend he was just gone? I didn't want to believe it, but deep down, I knew the truth. The river wasn't just water. It wasn't just a place. It was alive, and it didn't